Fellas, with the way things are going online in the lightweight division between Islam Makhachev and Dustin Poirier, it seems like that's going to be the next big fight in the lightweight division. It seems like Dustin Poirier is going to get a title shot because everyone else is booked. Gaethje's booked, Oliveira's booked, Arman Sarukian's booked, so it seems like Poirier and Makhachev are going to be facing around June. So I've decided to build an Abu Dhabi card, a stacked Abu Dhabi card as well, not one of these terrible ones, for the Islam Makhachev versus Dustin Poirier card. The main card, I think, is a stacked card. I think there's so many intriguing matchups. Let me know your thoughts on the card. Starting off with the main card opener, I've gone with Makachev and Brandon Royval. Yeah, I think this is one of those fights where the winner should undoubtedly get a title shot. I don't think anyone really expected Steve Erceg to get a title shot out of everyone. I was thinking it was going to be like an Amir Albazi or a Makhachev, but I think Brandon Royval and Makachev are both one fight away. Royval doesn't deserve one just yet because he literally just lost to Pantoja in December, and Makhachev, he didn't look amazing against Alex Perez, so I feel like match these two guys against each other, and the winner can undoubtedly get a title shot. And I feel like this is one of the fights in the flyweight division that would actually have an interesting build-up, because usually in the flyweight division there's not really any build-ups between the fights, there's not really any, you know, animosity, but these guys have had a lot of animosity towards each other on Twitter. They've had a lot of trash talk to each other, and I feel like the build-up to this fight would be really interesting. Makhachev's been practically trashing every flyweight, and Brandon Royval's had a lot to say about Makhachev, so the build-up would be interesting. And I'm also interested to see how Makhachev would do against Brandon Royval, because, like I said, he didn't look amazing against Alex Perez. And if he's not looking amazing against Alex Perez, how is he going to look against a guy like Brandon Royval, who's been fighting at the top level of the flyweight division for what feels like the longest time? So I'm really interested to see how their styles match up against each other. They're both one big fight away from a title shot, and I think the winner of this can easily face the winner of Erceg and Pantoja maybe towards the late 2024. And yeah, I feel like it's one of those fights in the flyweight division that interests me. I want to see Makhachev get tested, and I feel like this is the perfect test for him. But at the same time, Royval deserves it. Well, he doesn't deserve it, but he needs another fight, because one win, even though it was an impressive win over Moreno, I don't think one win over Moreno should give you an immediate title shot when you have just lost to Pantoja in December. So I've gone with Makhachev and Brandon Royval. Interesting build-up, interesting fight, and the winner should get a title shot on, and this is why it's the main card opener. And yeah, that's the main card opener, Makhachev versus Royval. Then the second fight on the card, another #1 contender fight. We've got Nurmagomedov versus Corey Sandhagen. Now, the winner of this has to get a title shot. Obviously, Merab's going to be getting the next title shot in the bantamweight division. But after Merab, there's not really anyone else. There's obviously Sandhagen, who deserves a shot, but I think he needs one more fight. And then we've got Nurmagomedov, who's up and coming as well. And I feel like now this fight makes a lot of sense. Nurmagomedov's coming off a really dominant win over Begsat, but at the same time, Nurmagomedov needs to step up in competition. Even though he dominated his last opponent, he was a debutant. He was facing a debutant. He needs to fight a legit opponent, which is why I think Sandhagen is the perfect fight. Sandhagen's accepted him in the past, and I feel like if this is the fight to give Sandhagen a title shot, he's going to do it. And I'm overall really interested in this fight because Sandhagen, we've seen in his last two, specifically his last two fights, that he's improved his grappling a lot. We saw against Rob Font and Marlon Vera that his offensive grappling was amazing. He won both of those fights by grappling both of them, and he looks really good doing so. And I feel like because Sandhagen's obviously shown that he can grapple very, very well, and he's improved it a lot, I'm interested to see how a guy as dominant when it comes to grappling as Nurmagomedov does against a guy who's improved his grappling as much as Sandhagen. I'm really interested to see how they match up against each other. And on the feet, we all know Sandhagen's one of the best strikers in the 135 division. And obviously, Nurmagomedov, he got caught by Begsat in his last fight, so I feel like it's threatening for both of them. But overall, they're both really balanced, and I'm really intrigued to see how this match would go. And I think the winner definitely deserves a title shot, because Sandhagen, I mean, he literally beat the last title challenger in Marlon Vera, and he's got a win over Rob Font. So if he beats Nurmagomedov, he deserves a shot. And Nurmagomedov, he's undefeated, he's looked great in all of his fights, and if he can beat a guy who's looked as good as Sandhagen, then I think he deserves a shot as well. So it's a big step up for both of them, and I feel like it'd be a really competitive fight, and the winner 100% give them a title shot after Merab, and I feel like that's what we should do in the bantamweight division. So yeah, second fight of the night, Nurmagomedov versus Sandhagen, fun fight, winner gets a title shot. Then we've got the featured fight of the night, Paulo Costa versus Imavov. Yeah, I matched this, I made this fight after UFC 298, and I still think this should be the next fight for Paulo Costa. Yeah, Paulo Costa, it feels like he's been fighting at the top level of the middleweight division for the longest time, facing guys like Vittori, Whitaker, Adesanya, and his only recent win is to Luke Rockhold, well, he was a retired Luke Rockhold. He literally retired after this fight. So I feel like he needs a little bit of a step down in competition. I'm not saying Imavov's an easy opponent, but it's definitely a step down in competition compared to what Costa's used to. And Imavov needs to step up in competition because he's just got a really dominant win over Roman Dolidze. And I feel like this has potential to be fight of the night. They're both, specifically Imavov as well, he's super well-rounded. And we've seen Costa, he looked great against Robert Whittaker. I know he lost that fight, but he looked great. He nearly finished Whittaker in that first round. And I think that Costa was the best Paulo Costa we've ever seen, even though he lost. I think skill-wise, that's the best Costa we've ever seen. I feel like this is fight of the night potential. Costa's going to want to get in the win column, and I'm sure he's going to want to get in the win column against a guy like Imavov. And if Imavov can beat Costa, that throws him in the title picture. The winner of this immediately gets thrown in the title picture. I'm not saying the winner gets a title shot, but the winner of this definitely gets back in the top 5, back in the title picture. Imavov needs a higher ranked opponent. I feel like it's a really fun fight to put on an Abu Dhabi card. Costa versus Imavov, fight of the night potential. Winner gets put in the title picture. And yeah, that's my thoughts on that fight. Great fight, and that's why it should be the featured fight of the night. And then the co-main event, Israel Adesanya versus Khamzat Chimaev. Now, before I talk about the fight, how fun would it be to have Adesanya, Chimaev, and Costa on the same card? I think it'll be absolutely jokes. The press conference would be amazing. The build-up to this card would be amazing. If we had Adesanya, Chimaev, and Costa all on the same card, there'd be so much trash talk between them, but yeah, Adesanya versus Chimaev, in my opinion, this is the best non-title fight you can make in the UFC. 100%. Best non-title fight you can make in the UFC. It's going to be weird to see Adesanya fight not for a belt because I'm so used to seeing Adesanya fight for a belt, but there's so many reasons why this is such a good fight. I mean, first of all, the winner gets a title shot. Adesanya, he didn't get a single defense after he beat Pereira. He immediately lost it to Sean Strickland, so I don't think he should get an immediate title shot unless they want to do him versus Dricus so desperately. But I think Chimaev versus Adesanya, the winner gets a title shot because they're both contenders, but I don't think either of them deserve a title shot right now. So face them against each other, winner gets a shot, and I feel like it's a classic striker versus grappler matchup. I'm really intrigued to see if Khamzat Chimaev is going to be able to ragdoll Israel Adesanya like no one has before and finish him early on, or if Adesanya is going to show the experience and absolutely piece apart Chimaev on the feet. I think this is the best striker versus grappler matchup you can make in the UFC. Such an intriguing matchup. They've already had a lot to say about each other, and I feel like the styles of these two will match against each other really, really well. Grappler versus striker. Hopefully it's a 5-rounder as well for a co-main event. But yeah, this would be an insane fight. The best non-title fight you can make in the UFC. I want to see how Chimaev, because Chimaev looked good in his last few. He looked great against, well, I wouldn't say he looked great, but he looked decent. He was able to beat Usman with grappling in the first round, and it makes me think if he's able to beat Usman with grappling in the first round, how's he going to do against a guy like Adesanya? I think he could easily beat Adesanya when it comes to grappling in the early rounds, but if it goes in the later rounds, because we know Chimaev's stamina is very suspicious, that's where we might see Adesanya's experience come to factor. But yeah, Adesanya versus Chimaev for the co-main event, one of the biggest non-title fights you can make in the UFC, and I think that'd be a cracking fight. And then finally, the main event, Islam Makhachev versus Dustin Poirier. Now, obviously, we were expecting to see Islam Makachev versus Oliveira or Islam Makachev versus Gaethje, but considering everyone's booked, it looks like we're going to be seeing Dustin Poirier versus Islam Makachev because everyone else is booked, and Islam needs a fight. But yeah, I think this is kind of like the last chance for Dustin Poirier. He looked great against Benoit Saint-Denis, who was tagging him. You know, he about 50 guillotine attempts as well. But yeah, it's Poirier's last chance at a title shot. He's kind of getting lucky with his title shot as well, because in any other circumstance, he would not be getting a title shot. But it's his last chance at a title shot against Islam Makachev. Poirier seems like he can win. It's a potential retirement fight for Poirier as well, because I feel like if he does lose to Islam Makachev, I don't think he's going to be fighting again. I feel like he's going to have one last run at the title, and then that's going to be him done. So I feel like it's the last fight for Poirier. But yeah, it'll be a fun fight, I guess. I do definitely have Islam Makachev winning this fight. I think he is the best lightweight right now, and I do think Poirier is probably one of the easier contenders for Islam Makachev. But hey, it's MMA. Anything can happen in this sport. Maybe Poirier is able to land a big shot on Makachev, or maybe even catch him in a guillotine. But yeah, that's the card. That's the Abu Dhabi card. Islam Makachev versus Dustin Poirier. I think this is stacked. It's got so many big fights on it. And yeah, I think this is an amazing Abu Dhabi card. Let me know your thoughts on the card and if you'd added any other fights. Thank you for watching.